Welcome everybody to South Detroit Dynasty Podcast. This is JR and I have the pleasure of having the Bachelor in the house. Hey Batch, how's it been?
Oh, not too bad. How you been doing, JR?
Good. Listen, I want to find out right at the beginning of the program here who the Bachelor is in love with.
So if we're talking just your standard redraft league, I love me some DeAndre Hopkins. I don't think his target share is going anywhere. I think PPR or standard scoring, you've got touchdowns, you've got the receptions, you've got the yardage. I could see him going in top 3.
Well, I mean, this plays right into what I said in one of the segments, that I think Deshaun Watson is actually going to be the number 1 quarterback this year. And he's the guy to go get in redraft leagues if you can get him after the 5th round.
Oh, yeah. If he's fallen to that sort of position, you're getting tons of value there. People are remembering last year where he struggled a bit. He had an O-line that wasn't protecting him that much. But I think a lot of that was on him. And if he matures as a quarterback, you'll see those sack numbers go down. And you're going to see, instead of 10 of those sacks, maybe 10 of those become passes. 5 more of those become receptions. Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins running deep. Just add yardage, add touchdowns.
Yeah, it's interesting that you just mentioned Will Fuller there, because Will Fuller, they weren't speculating that he was going to be back in football shape by week 1, but they've said now this week that he should be back by week 1, ready to go, and he's excited to get back out on the field and show them what he can do.
Oh, and if you actually look at the stats on Will Fuller, I don't have them offhand, but when he's in the game, he is a game changer.
Yeah, I think it was 6 games, 538 yards or something like that, and like 4 or 5 TDs.
Yeah, he makes Watson bonkers. Like, it's nuts what these guys can do together.
Yeah, he had a 75-yard bomb for a TD. Like, just the speedster is what they need on the field. He'll take the double coverage away from Hopkins, and I agree with you. I think Hopkins' numbers are actually going to go up with Will Fuller being on the field and the young buck from last year, Kiki.
If you got 2 guys that can blow a top off a defense and DeAndre kind of working the intermediate, it's a scary situation for any defense.
What are they going to do at running back is the problem, right? Are they going to run with Lamar again?
Yeah.
Or are they – I know they're actually banking that Foreman's going to be back into shape.
And all reports are, yeah, he's there, he's that. But everyone looks great this time of year. You know, like, we don't really know. But I think Lamar's entering last year's contract. So I think Foreman will have every chance to take that. But do they go draft? You know, even if his guy 3rd, 4th round, that's danger to both those backs.
What about a Yeldon type of guy coming in there?
Oof. Yeldon's been interesting me, huge landing spot. Like, visited the Bills, visited the Patriots. You know, Patriots not an ideal spot with how crowded that is. But if he goes to the Bills or the Texans, even Green Bay, that kid, he has skills. And I wouldn't be surprised if he took, like, tons of snaps from any back in any of those situations.
You got to remember, Yeldon was, I believe, a 2nd or a 3rd rounder for the Jags.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they believed in him then. There's no reason. He's still young.
Yeah,
I think he's 24. There's no reason why he can't be a semi-featured back with a complimentary back behind him.
Funny thing, one of the guys in our league, he'll be here talking with us sometimes. He was sending me offers the other day, and he goes, "Oh, I've got 5 running back 2s." And I go, 5? Who's the 5th? Like, I know it's 4. I go, who's the 5th? He goes, TJ Yeldon. And I wanted to hop on there and just be able to be like, you're an idiot, you know. And I went and looked. He finished RB23 last year in points per reception league. I couldn't even say anything to him. Like, I'm not valuing him as that RB2 without a landing spot. But I looked at the receiving stats, and 4 guys, not just top 24, but for a back to even be considered in this day and age to get to a top 10 level, he needs to catch 50 footballs in a season. And TJ Yeldon can do that.
Yep, for sure. All right, so we got off topic there on the because so high on Texans this year. Who else do you got? You got Hopkins number one potentially for wide receivers, I assume.
Yeah, I'd have a few running backs in there before.
Yeah, I mean, we know the easy running back guys. If we take out the big guys, if we take out the guys that are the bell cows, and you have, let's say, spot, 11 in the draft, and you want to take a running back, who's that first committee guy that you're gonna take?
It's a really tough situation. So once you get outside of your, there's different ways of looking at it, but your bell cows. So what are we talking? Saquon, Gurley, Zeke, Nelly, a few guys like that. They all have such a share of their backfield that they're almost bulletproof, except for injury. A guy, he's not overly in a committee, but people kind of look at him that way, and they don't know from last year, but called a homer pick, but James Conner. I love him.
Such a homer.
Don't give me that shit.
Juju's going to be brought up in this segment, too. I feel this happening.
But Conner he's an absolute stud. Does he have the running back style that some of these other guys? No. Does he have the shiftiness? No. But what he has is the best line in football. He's got a quarterback that commands DBs outside the box.
Dude, your head is getting bigger and bigger by the moment. I wish this was not a podcast. I wish people could see this. See, we start talking about the Steelers and this just happens. I mean, we talk about my Lions and that never happens with me because I know my expectations. I know the limitations. So,
no, it's true. You get me on the Steelers and my eyes light up, and I just love his position this year. He's got everything going for him. Along the same lines, if we want to go into your Lions a little bit, I like Carry-On. If you can get him in round, I don't know, where are you thinking, 4?
No, that's too late for Carry-On. I think people know what Carry-On brings to the table. I think, actually, I'm afraid that Carry-On is going to be overvalued and going around the second round. And I think that CJ is going to take a lot of that production away from Carry-On that you would have thought that he would have had. Yeah. I love the acquisition of Anderson, but at the same time, I would have liked to see the kid come out and blossom his second year. I don't think you're going to see that until around the third year. Yeah. But I think he can be very, very productive for us, just not right now.
It looks like they're taking the cautious approach, especially bringing in a vet like CJ to say, hey, kid, you don't have to do it all. We're going to limit your touches. We want you to be explosive on the plays we have you in, but we don't want you with that 80% share.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at their head coach, Matt Patricia, right, come from the Patriots background, and their background is always have a plethora of running backs that can do different skill set, that have different skill sets and have different tools. You used to have LeGarrette Blount, Dion Lewis, James White. Oh, yeah, there's always guys there.
Stable of horses.
They had Burkhead. They have so many guys in there that you never have a fatigue guy. Yeah. You never have to worry about it. And Belichick always had the playbook to match their skill set and say, okay, this play is so-and-so's, this play is so-and-so's. And, it was a plug-and-play system. And if Patricia brings any of that to the Lions, which I actually hope he doesn't, I hope he actually has something up his sleeve that's his, we may end up seeing that because right now we have Theo, we have Zach Zenner, we have CJ Anderson, we have Carry-On Johnson. You're seeing that right now, right? You're seeing a power back. You're seeing actually 2 semi-power backs. Yeah. You're seeing a finesse back with Carry-On. You're seeing a catching back with Theo. So
it's having that stable horses, and I see what you mean. A lot of people have their role, but they also don't have to have that role. You can throw some kinks into it where you're expecting, if you see CJ coming out, just to pound that rock, right up the gut, and then all of a sudden it's something to Kenny. So they'll keep you off guard with who's in the backfield. Back to the running back by committee. You'll be able to call it a committee, but my top one, aside from Connor, which I just had to get in there, would be Alvin Kamara. He's going to split time with Latavius Murray. That will happen. That's what Sean Payton has always done. But he's an amazing talent. Sean Payton's on record saying that he is the best receiver that the New Orleans Saints have. They have Michael Thomas there. And he says, no, our best pass catcher is Alvin Kamara.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
So I take a lot into that. And you watch him, and he catches 60, 70 footballs a year. You know, he's going to put up massive stats.
What do you got for me?
Let's go with you hit the turn, okay? You had a high pick. Let's say you landed Saquon. You took him 1 or 2. Turn goes, comes back to you back end of the second. You're probably looking down that huge array of running backs you've talked about in the back end of, like, good wide receivers. Like
Jarvis Landry.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's your guy?
100%. I think his targets last year were absolutely bonkers. It's just his receptions were actually down. But he was targeted a ton. He's going to be targeted a ton again. I look at the Browns system, and Jarvis Landry is basically T.Y. Hilton to me, but younger, faster, and stronger. With OBJ there, OBJ is going to take on 2 guys pretty much most of the season. You have Njoku who can catch the ball. You have Chubb that can run the ball. You have Duke Johnson that can catch the ball. Midway through the season, you're going to have a Hunt there, so Hunt's going to catch the ball.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be a ton of mouths to feed, but there's going to be a ton of balls thrown.
Yep.
Don't kid yourself. This is not an old school Browns team that's just going to run the ball up the middle all the time. They're going to, honestly, I think they're going to look like the Lions. They're going to have like a 65% pass rate, and I think the guy that's going to benefit from it is going to be Jarvis Landry.
I could see that. Everyone's sitting there, and I believe, was it LSU they both went to? I forget what school, but OBJ and Jarvis have been buddies for a long time, and everyone's saying, well, how can they exist on the same team? It's going to be awful. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. Oh, Jarvis is nothing now because OBJ demands this much. No, that just freed him up. So I agree with you in that sense. Like, now he's not seeing the best corner. You know, now he's not seeing any doubles. Now he's seeing a lot more open field.
Some linebacker coverage, which he's just going to blow the doors off of.
Exactly. If they can scheme it, like I remember watching that one of the crazy games last year, Rams versus Vikings. I think it was Thursday night or something like that. And the way that they can scheme now, and I'm watching Cooper Kupp get Anthony Barr in coverage. And when you can scheme like that, like if Jarvis Landry's getting TJ Watt in coverage, that's, you know, if they can scheme that 4 times in the game, you're looking at a 150-yard game with a touchdown or 2.
Easy, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I like that. The only thing, and like, this is the great dilemma in redraft leagues. How good are you feeling, or are you coming right back with another wide receiver, having that as your wide receiver 1? Because you went running back, then you hit that with your 1. Now who do you have to grab?
See, I wouldn't have did that.
Yeah.
I mean, you posed it.
Yeah.
The question as me taking that wide receiver.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer of getting those running backs.
So you'd be stacking up. You'd be grabbing a second.
I usually stack up 3. I am probably the biggest running back whore that you will ever see in your life.
It became a thing in some of our leagues, so you guys haven't seen them here, but there is usually a running back frenzy in the first couple of rounds where we want talent. We want talent at the running back position. In wide receivers, they can be had later on. There's a few of us that kind of abide by that rule.
I remember 2 years ago, I believe it was the Olive Garden League. I hope we don't get sued for saying Olive Garden, but we shouldn't. But yeah, the Olive Garden League, I believe I stacked four running backs in a row. And it was just like boom, 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 boom. And guys were like, what is this guy doing?
One of my favorite things, it was that league 2 years ago. And a buddy of ours, Carl, had just come into the league. And I'm sitting there with another one of our buddies, Poke. And Carl looks over and he goes, I think it was round 3. And he looks over at us and he goes, how do you guys feel about Kareem Hunt? And we both look and we go, it's pretty much crap. So he goes, I forget who even drafted.
And then the next pick Packer. He took Jordy Nelson that year.
And then Pope turns around and goes, Kareem Hunt. I don't know if he won the league, but, it took him a long way. So here's another tip. When you're in a redraft, don't ask your opponents.
Your skill level should be not vocalized. Do not vocalize your skill level.
No.
Bring a computer. It's pretty easy. Or listen to our podcast. It's really easy.
Yeah. The ranks will be real nice. You can follow those. I can guarantee it.
The one thing about this podcast batch is, the guys that are involved in here, we're involved in a lot of leagues together. So the one thing that I said to them was, I really don't know if I want to do this podcast because, it's going to be a great time. It's going to be fun. But then you guys are going to know how I think and the things that I do and why I do them. And DRC, of course, comes back and says, well, you're going to learn the things that I do and how I do them. And I said, I don't want to learn any of those things.
I don't want in that brain. Oh, that's a fucking mess. I don't want any of that. But it's even what you're saying, because we were talking about setting up this podcast, and in one of our meetings to do that, you and DRC both brought up the importance of our taxi squads. And so I went back and evaluated my taxi squad, and I said, you want to know what? I'm not happy with where this stands right now. And then I put in work for the next 3-4 weeks. This is a glorious thing about the format that we run. It's off season, but I'm still working. And I bolstered my taxi squad and my starting squad by just maneuvering pieces around. And now I feel way more comfortable with the future of my team as opposed to just kind of win now mode. I've kind of hedged my bets. We want playoffs. When you're in these leagues, you want playoffs. But you're not going to win every year. But you make a run at it. I was our inaugural league champion in the Lions Den, and I squeaked in the playoffs. Squeaked in. Barely made it into there. Only reason I won the championships was because of a stat change in the semifinals, keeping the best team out of the finals. Actually, the second stat change that happened that year between those two exact opponents, both times in the other guy's favor. It was a wild finish to that league.
That league, the inaugural year was very, very good. I mean, that league is very, very good in itself. But, I agree that you did go to work. And now DRC has the 109, and he's taunting me with the 109 because he knows I want a player that is kind of under the radar, but I'll take him early in the first or second round. And so now he's like, I'm going to take that player with the 109.
Oh, so I let him into your backyard.
That's okay. I let him in on the secret that we talked about yesterday, and saying that when I said in that deal I would have asked for the 107 instead of the 109, and you were like, yeah, I was prepared for him to do that. So he's like, yeah, I think I got a pretty good. This was me driving home last night talking to him. He's like, I think I got a pretty good haul from the batch, and I'm like, yeah, you got a pretty good haul. He goes, yeah, I was looking at it, this and this and this. He goes, I would have taken a little bit less. I said, that's funny. And I'm dying laughing on the phone by this time. I'm like, that's funny because you could have got a little bit more after the 107. He's like, what? So then he retorts with going back to, no, I think I got quite a bit here. I would have taken a little bit less.
Wow. I would have loved that.
He would have let you keep one of the wide receivers.
Yeah. And I was okay with that. Like, sometimes with him, you have to make him feel like he's winning. Sometimes that's what you do in trades. You just let the guy feel like the win, because I really wanted that player. I want Aaron Jones. And even talk about him, redraft league, where you see him. That's a committee.
Yep.
And Where do you see Aaron Jones?
Late second round, early third round.
Yep.
He has to.
Yeah, just
You
based
gotta
on
take
the skill that's there.
You have to take the chance.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to run the ball at some point, right? They have a new system coming in. I know Aaron's still going to run his system the way he kind of wants to run it at quarterback.
Yeah, I believe that.
But, I mean, there's not going to be any animosity year one, I don't think, between Aaron Rodgers and the coach. So, I mean, they've come out on, I don't know if it's necessarily the record, but they came out saying, McCarthy wanted more balls to
Valdez-Scantling?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Aaron refused to throw the ball to him. No, I mean, this is not on record at all.
Yeah,
this is just us talking about this. But if that's the case, and I'm sure Rodgers wasn't doing it to Scantling.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was doing it just to defy McCarthy, if that was the case.
That's where the relationship got to.
I guess I can segue into that, too. That's another player that I'm looking at right now.
Yeah.
That's another player that I'm looking at getting in, like, the 6th, 7th round.
Yeah.
As one of my wide receivers, right?
So just one of those flyers where you're...
That's why I could go in a redraft league something like a Barkley or a Zeke at 2 and end up coming back around to an Aaron Jones, followed by something like Calvin Ridley, and then down later on, grabbing somebody like Scantling and, other players like that.
Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to, is if you go running back heavy, when you start getting into those later rounds where you're going to hit your value picks or your boom bust, they make rosters. Like, let's just cut to the chase here. Those picks 7 to 10, if you hit, there's a good chance you're going deep in the playoffs. That's where the research comes in. So if you're looking at the relationships on that team, the targets that will be available, the new system coming in, Aaron Rodgers trusts year 1 to year 2 in a rookie because sometimes he doesn't trust his rookies. That's just the way it goes. He trusts Devontae Adams. He trusts a veteran in Jimmy Graham.
When Devontae Adams is the only guy there,
exactly.
He has to trust somebody.
It has to. And so this offseason, if MVS is putting in work with Aaron Rodgers, could it turn into a 900-yard season with 7 touchdowns? Yeah, it could.
So here's a good one for you. So you want a committee? You want something that's even more raw than the Packers committee? What do you do when you come through the end of the second round, beginning of third round, and you have Chris Carson and Rashad Penny?
Oof. This one's really tough. A lot of people have left a sour taste in their mouth for Penny. I think he's going to be an absolute value this year, especially redraft leagues. Dynasty comes with a price tag, but in a redraft league, this is Chris Carson's show, this is Chris Carson, this, that. And Chris Carson's young, and Chris Carson ran well last year, but Rashad Penny was, I think, after week 8, was running at like 5.5 yards a carry.
5.8 or 5.9 is what the average was.
So, he wasn't putting up the stats that Carson did, but this wasn't a slouch coming off the bench. This was first-round draft capital for this team. Carson was the 5th last pick in his draft. This was a first-round pick. When you talk about stock in a player, Seattle has way more stock on this horse. And I don't know what it's going to turn into. I don't know if it's going to be 50-50. I don't know if Penny steals the job throughout the year. But Penny's one of the guys that I'm willing to take a flyer on this year. And I don't know what round it's going to cost me at this point. But it's a strong chance of being value, because if he can steal 60% of touches in that backfield, you could be looking at a top 18 running back.
I mean, if he gets himself in a position where he's going to get 180 to 200 touches, he's going to get himself, 30 receptions, something like that, and a plethora of hopefully TDs in between 6 to 9 TDs. Yeah, you're looking at a guy that will crack the top 20.
Yeah.
And that is very, very much worth what I think is going to be a 4th round guy in redraft leagues, potentially a 5th round guy, depending on if the guys love Carson more than Penny, right?
And that's
will go,
what
and then
he's going to go in, late second, early third?
Probably early third, just after Aaron Jones and a couple of the other guys.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be a little bit deeper. He may end up falling down to like 3.5, 3.6, somewhere in there.
So, you look at him at 3.5, 3.6, or you look at Penny mid-fifth.
Yeah.
Right?
Or you potentially have to go and get both.
Yeah.
You potentially have to go. So you potentially have to go that Ezekiel Elliott or Saquon Barkley into, an Aaron Jones, into, a Chris Carson, into a wide receiver, into Rashad Penny at that point.
No, I really like that backfield, and they've shown you they want to pound the football. Now, will that change with giving Russell Wilson buckets of money? I don't know. I think they just knew they had to pay Russell Wilson.
I think that deal was crazy, and I think that deal actually hurts them and their playoff chances. Because how do you fix up your O-line? How do you fix up your defense with all the guys that you lost when you've paid that much money to Wilson?
It's the way of the league now. It's going to be tough, man.
I mean, they're good because all their wide receivers are young and cheap, other than Baldwin.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett's still cheap. They have David Moore there. He's cheap.
Yeah.
So they potentially can do it. Their running backs are cheap.
Yep.
Carson, it's his last year.
Yep, on his rookie contract.
So whether or not they pick up anything after that and want to pay him, I can't see it happening, only because they're paying Penny.
Yeah.
Because he was a first rounder.
Exactly.
So they're paying him no matter what.
And that's where, when we talk about this, where my default is, once we get past skill and that, it's where's the money? And when you got a first-round pick and a seventh-round pick, and I haven't seen anything but discussions of re-signing Carson or giving him more money, the money dictates. Penny gets every shot this year to prove he can be the lead guy there.
Awesome. All right, we're going to take a little break here. Hey, guys, we're back. Me and the Batch are sitting here. I'm JR. This is the Bachelor. Batch is going to throw some guys at me, and he'll explain what's going on.
All right, so just real quick, we're talking about redraft leagues right now. You could take it into Dynasty as well if you really want to in a Dynasty startup, but more redraft purposes right now. And I'm just going to ask JR here a couple names that are going pretty close together based on Fantasy Football Calculator right now, and see where his opinions on these guys fall and who he would take in those sort of positions. So I'm going to start off mid-third round. We've got back-to-back AJ Green and Adam Thielen going. So I'm just wondering, in your position, you're picking around 304, 305. Who do you like there?
I'm picking Thielen all day long. AJ Green over the last couple of years has fallen off. I think Tyler Boyd has come up pretty decent from last year. Tight end should still be Tyler Eifert, but they're going to have, I believe it's CJ in there too.
Yep.
So I actually think that Kirk Cousins is more proficient at throwing the ball. I think him being second year in this system is very, very good for him. And Adam Thielen is the guy that's going to benefit from it.
Perfect. Then I'm looking at end of the third, like the turn 3 into 4. We got 3 running backs. I could toss a fourth name in there that are all going almost back-to-back here. So we got Ingram in his new spot in Baltimore. Phillip Lindsay, one of those timeshare guys. Derrick Henry, monster end of the season, but do we really know? And Devontae Freeman. Who do you like there? You're at the turn.
We shouldn't have thrown the fourth in there. I'm Ingram all day long.
Yeah.
Sold on him 100%. He's in a great system. They love to run the ball. He's a part of that. Ingram's the guy.
You like Ingram? I'm a little bit concerned with a new regime going into Denver on the Phillip Lindsay as well.
I think that Freeman is going to be the guy end of the day. Lindsay was a hit last year. Him coming back from his injury, I don't know that he's going to be the same, Lindsay. And Freeman has not wavered on what he can do. They picked Freeman early enough. I think Freeman is the guy there over Lindsay. But again, I come back to Ingram. I like Freeman, like Devontae Freeman. But the problem with Devontae Freeman is Ito Smith is going to take a lot of the carries. They're not going to try and run the wheels off of Devontae Freeman. He's just not. I don't know that he comes back that healthy. And I think that they actually go and get another guy.
See, it's a dark horse. Is everyone's kind of.
That's why I said I wish you would have thrown in the fourth guy, because the fourth guy is the dark horse.
Yeah.
And I love taking the underdog. I love taking the dark horse and taking chances on him. So if you would have ended at Henry, Ingram was easy. But
and to your point, so Philip Lindsay, we're talking about the end of 3, early 4 there. Royce Freeman currently sitting at 807. So that's one of your value guys. And the last little pocket I wanted to talk to you about is I believe it's in 4th round, where we have 4 into 5, all 3 Rams receivers. So we got Robert Woods, Brandon Cooks, and Cooper Kupp, all going in the same area. Where do you fall on these guys? If you're only going to get one based on this, who are you taking?
What round are we starting in?
This is end of 4th, early 5th. So this is the JR time to take his wide receiver. Who do you like of those 3?
Robert Woods.
Robert Woods.
I'm not even fazed by the other 2. Cooks is going to put up great numbers. Kupp is going to come back. Hopefully Kupp returns to his form from last year. I still don't think that Robert Woods' numbers are affected by any of this. And then you're going to have Josh Reynolds that's still added in there too. And hopefully Todd Gurley, knock on wood, comes back and he's Todd Gurley-esque, right?
Yep.
And then Everett, who knows what's going to happen with Everett there?
Yep.
He looks like a decent piece too. But I think the only numbers that are secure, I think, are Robert Woods. And that's probably why he's projected 1 over top of all those guys, right?
Yep. No, I like that. A lot of people are a little bit low on Robert Woods. My personal pick, I would actually go. I would go Cooks. I just like him. Just a little bit more, but I do feel like Robert Woods escaped Buffalo and has been nothing but rock solid. And I feel like the same type of thing. You can count on that production. Whereas Cooks is a little bit more boom bust. I feel like the safer pick probably is Woods as well.
So one thing we haven't touched on, Jesse, and I want you to see if you can comb through there real quick. Yep. Give me some tight ends, because we didn't give these guys any tight ends. I mean, the QBs, honestly, after you take the top, 3 off, from 4 to 14 or 4 to 12, their production, might be 1.5 to 2 points per week max in difference. So, I mean, the variation is not big. Tight ends, they fall under that same variation. That's why I always wait on my quarterbacks and I always wait on my tight ends. Like last year, I basically told everybody, if you're in a standard league, if you're in a redraft league, you wait and you pick up 2 quarterbacks back-to-back in the 10th and 11th or the 11th and 12th round. And those 2 quarterbacks that I named were Phillip Rivers and Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
And if you did that, you probably won your league.
You're feeling pretty good.
So, end result, I break down numbers and everything, and when I see the variations in those numbers, and the point total is, 30 points separates, 4th from 14 or from 12, the numbers aren't that big to scare me off, to make me have to reach for one of the guys early. And tight ends are the exact same thing. The variation between tight ends, after you take out the top 3, you take the top off of it. Because, I mean, those you're going to pay premium on. I get that. If you want to go and get a tight end and you want to pay the premium, you want Travis Kelce, you're going to pay a 2nd rounder or a 3rd rounder.
Yeah, and that's exactly it.
Gronk's went in the 1st round when he was Gronk. A couple of times.
Yeah.
So I'm not willing to pay that at that position.
I'm right on board with you. I don't feel tight end that sort of need as well. But it is a game changer if you get those top three.
I mean, you would have got George Kittle last year, right?
Yep.
You would have probably picked him up in the 7th round, 8th round.
Yep.
And
he paid dividends.
He paid dividends. Same with Zach Ertz.
Yep.
But I mean, Zach Ertz was the year before that. He had already started paying dividends.
Exactly. So when we're looking at this here, like you're saying, Kelsey mid-second, Ertz end of 2. Then we go into Kittle mid-3rd. But then we have that drop, like you're talking about. And then we hit round 5. And round 5 is where you see Ebron, O.J. Howard, and Evan Ingram. I still don't know if I'm willing to pay 5th round at that point. But that's where the kind of second tier starts.
O.J. Howard, Evan Ingram would be close for me to do it. Ebron, I'm still not buying him. Dude, I'm a Lions fan, right? Like I've seen old brick hands. But Ebron, I'm not buying him. I would rather wait and get Jared Cook.
And Jared Cook has fallen way down in these 9th round.
Yeah, I mean, New Orleans Saints.
Yep.
Now, he put up great numbers last year. I think he's only going to be able to put up better numbers this year. He takes some pressure off of Michael Thomas. He takes some pressure off of the young receivers that they have there. Ted Ginn gets open a little bit extra, opens up the field. I think Jared Cook is going to be that piece that New Orleans needed, and he's the guy. He can do it. He proved last year. It doesn't matter how old he is. Like, he can do it.
Yep. And then the other two that I would have interest in that we could talk to people about here a little bit. 7th round, you're looking at Vance McDonald and David Njoku. I don't know how you fall on those guys. I'm obviously partial to my Steeler. I think Vance steps up, but Vance has always been, it's the injury risk. He can't complete a season. He's a vicious football player, but this guy can't stay healthy. And Njoku, we've talked a bit about Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham, everything like that. Do you think he could put up the numbers that you need?
So let's do this. So I love both those guys, by the way.
Yep.
Absolutely love both those guys. Give me some running backs and some wide receivers that are around those guys, and I'll tell you why I wouldn't take those guys.
So we got Njoku coming off like right at the start of 7, and then immediately after you have wide receivers DJ Moore, Sammy Watkins, Corey Davis, Robbie Anderson.
I would take almost every one of those wide receivers over Njoku.
Your running backs going in that area: Rashad Penny, Jerick McKinnon, Kareem Hunt.
So the Kareem Hunt is a stash.
Yeah.
Because obviously the 8-game suspension.
So if you've got the 2 running backs, you might be able to.
Yeah, I would stash him. That would be perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're looking at, by the time he's coming back, bye weeks are getting hot and heavy, right?
Yep.
So you're starting to see 4 teams on bye, things like that, rather than just the 2 teams on bye. Kareem Hunt's the pick there, I think. And if I'm asked to take a wide receiver because I already have 3 or 4 running backs like I normally do,
yep,
I think DJ Moore is a no-brainer.
Yep. Number 1 guy in his team.
Yeah, I think
like
he's a no-brainer. I mean, you get a number 1 in the 7th round, and I didn't take a tight end yet, and sounds like I'm waiting until the 9th round to get Jared Cook, and then followed up by 2 quarterbacks like Matthew Stafford, and probably give me a couple more. Give me some quarterbacks that are around the 10th round, 11th round for you.
Well, even right now, like we're talking in this area, let's go round 8 and 9. We've got Jared Goff, Cam Newton, Tom Brady, Jameis Winston, and handsome Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, boy. If I could wait till the 10th round and Jameis Winston was still there, Jameis Winston's my guy.
I'm 100% on board with that right now.
And the fact that I'm pushing guys to take more wide receivers because I'm ripping them off the board, and running backs, and I'm ripping them off the board because I went 3 or 4 running backs and 3 or 4 wide receivers in a row.
Putting your talent on the board.
Yeah, and I'm pushing these guys down, and guys are taking tight ends and stuff like that. Most likely quarterbacks are going to fall, and you'll see that happen in your draft.
And even here, right now. So you wanted the deeper ones, where we're going even a little bit past that Jameis Winston area.
Still got Rivers in there, right?
We got, I don't know, I don't see Rivers here yet, but let's go these names. Roethlisberger, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. Any of those guys, are you willing to have them?
Yeah, all 3 of them. All 3 of them.
And you're grabbing this 10th, 11th round.
Yeah, all 3 of them. And this is why we wait on quarterbacks. Like, if you're in a redraft league and you want Aaron Rodgers because that's the guy that you love, great, go and get him. But I'm going to make you pay for it. I'm going to make you pay for it because you're going to be so stoked that he's there in the 3rd round, or 4th round, and I'm going to be so stoked that I still get Ben Roethlisberger and Josh Allen back to back. Or I'm still waiting on Phillip Rivers again this year. He produced last year. I'm going to take him again this year.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm right there with you. I think that the weight on that Philly rib actually a little bit higher up, but end of 7.
End of 7.
Right, end of 7 right now, but
yeah,
I can see it drop a little bit from there.
I think if I push people in the draft, he falls to 8 or 9. And even at 8 and then coming back at 9 and getting the tight end and then 10 taking another quarterback. Like, I've already had 3 wide receivers or 3 running backs and 4 wide receivers, or 4 running backs, 3 wide receivers on my team at that point. That 8 spot is a perfect spot to take a quarterback or a tight end, things like that, right? Traditionally, I'm a 4-4 type of guy, so I'll take a flyer on a running back. So if Kareem Hunt's there in 8, I take him, and I finish up my 4th running back and have 4 wide receivers on my team, and then come back 9 and get, probably my tight end, which would be Jared Cook, and then followed up by 10 and 11, like I always do.
Okay, and last one that I'm going to ask you, and then we'll move on to something else. But here we are. We're late 9th round, early 10th. 2 guys on the same team. One of them's going to be the wide receiver 1 for that team. Who do you like, Sterling Shepard or Golden Tate?
Oh, boy. I love Sterling Shepard. But I'm taking Golden Tate.
You're taking Mr. Reliable.
I'm taking Golden Tate. I'm taking that slot guy. I'm taking the guy, because I'm assuming that he's going to play in the slot. I'm taking the guy that's probably not going to get double covered. I'm taking the guy that has hands for days. I'm taking the guy that gets touchdowns. I'm taking the guy that is exciting and electrifying. I think Sterling Shepard's going to have a ton of pressure on him this year, and without OBJ there, I think it's going to be tough. I think the only 2 guys on that team that I truly want is Evan Ingram and Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I could see that. In this spot now, like, this is where you've built your 3 wide receivers, or, you have them in place. This guy's kind of just gravy. If you've gone a little more boom bust with your wide receiver picks, Golden Tate all day for me. Because I feel like Eli's lack of arm strength, you get Golden Tate, who's that security blanket. Like, I know Saquon is there too, but 90 receptions, you can almost put it in the bank.
I think we were bang on almost everything. I think when it comes to this question, we're going to have a wide divide in our crowd where guys are like, you guys are nuts. You take Sterling Shepard. And then you have other guys that are like, oh, yeah, JR's a Detroit fan, so he probably liked Golden Tate.
Well, we saw him for years, right? So what did you want to move on to now? We've done a lot of redraft talk here. We've talked to some rankings. Where would you like to go now?
So we're going to do a small segment on should this trade have happened? I have up the 2 major dynasty leagues that we're in, that me and you are in together.
Yep.
I'm in another one that you're not in, so I won't bring that up. But the ones that we're in together, I'm going to bring them up, and I'm just going to say, should this trade have happened? And then me and you will discuss it, and then we'll wrap it up with a special that you probably didn't think we were going to talk about, but we are going to talk about.
Okay.
But I'll save that for a little bit later. So let me go through here. Let me see if I can't find a trade. Here's a trade for you. So the Gun Show gives up Dante Foreman and the 5'10". This, you got to remember, guys, this is Dynasty. So we got draft picks. We got all kinds of other fun involved in this. Dante Foreman and the 5'10" for Spencer Ware and the 3'11". Should it have happened? Now, the cap, I'll give you the cap on these guys. The cap on Foreman is for 1 more year at $4.4 million. The cap on Spencer Ware for 1 more year is $0.4. So that's $400,000.
This is one of those trades where obviously one of the owners has way more faith in Foreman becoming a thing than the other. if I'm on this side of the trade, when we're talking about picks here, we're talking in a rookie redraft. So was it 311 and 5?
5'10", 311.
5'10", 311. So you're talking 2 whole rounds here. There's a really good chance we play our leagues with IDP players. I think we start 9 IDP players in our leagues.
8 IDP players.
Okay. So when we look at this, the 311, if it was only offensive players, might be a little bit less, but the 311 is a very good pick to get. And the one thing I've always struggled with in our leagues is determining how much cap space is worth. In this instance, owner getting a Foreman is taking on cap space and getting the worst pick. I'd much rather be on the other side of this trade. He must have a lot more faith than I do of him recovering from this Achilles injury that's taken him out for 1.5 years right now. Reports are he's going to get the shot, but I 100% would take the 311 in Spencer Ware.
All right, next one. Meatball Maniacs. So we were talking about Carl earlier and his crazy antics and not taking Kareem Hunt 2 years ago. Meatball Maniacs give up Devin Funches, Vince Williams, the 105, the 606 to the Cookers Crushers, who gives up the 411 and Stephon Diggs.
Oof. Like,
I mean, I'm adamant. You're Jesse. The match is shaking his head in disbelief that this happened. You know, I'm adamant at getting the best player in the deal, and even giving up the 106 or whatever, the 105.
In this year's draft, rookie draft, like, what are you really getting there that's going to replace Stephon Diggs' production?
Even still, even if you looked at it from last year's rookie draft,
it's true.
Even if somehow you lucked into, you know, the Kareem Hunt or Alvin Kamara, like, even if you lucked into that, like, that foreseeable.
It's what you're talking about. It's the known quantity versus the gamble.
Yeah.
And it seems like Cookers Crushers here felt like going to that wheel and giving her a spin. I'll take the Diggs production every day in this deal. If I see that, that's an instant reject for me. Because let me tell you, Cooker Crushers sent me offers like this before, and it's instant reject.
So I'm going to move on from this league in a second, but we're going to do, I'll do 2 more from here real quick. So we got DRC, gave up his first rounder in 2020, his second rounder in 2020, and the Mustang second rounder in 2020.
I don't like that either. Like, I'll take the draft capital in this one.
And Cohen's price on this one, I think, is either 6.8 or it's in between close to 7 to being close to 8 million.
And this is Cohen in our 2 leagues because the entry drafts were at 2 different years. Cohen in our other league is an absolute steal at like $1 million. At that value and the pick equity that was given up, I'm taking the picks on that one. I also like next year's draft more than this year's, but that's besides the point. Like, if we're just looking at true equity and what you're getting back, yeah, I'd be willing to part with Cohen for those picks.
Yeah, Cohen's not a home run.
No.
Cohen's not a home run, and that's the whole thing. Like, they got caught up with his production last year, and they think the production's going to be the same or more, and I disagree.
And that he's had that conversation with me where he sees this just amazing ceiling and very high floor. And I don't put it past the Bears to draft a running back. They brought in Mike Davis. Tariq Cohen is 5'6", 190 pounds.
He's Darren Sproles.
Yeah, okay, he's gonna catch some passes. He's gonna do some stuff, but he's never gonna be that top 12 guy for you. And when you're giving up that much draft equity.
Last one on this
I would
site, and then
hope
we'll
you're
move over to
getting
Lions
that
Den.
sort of player
And this
back.
one, I had to put it in here because it's big. There's a lot of pieces in here. So, DRC gives up Kalen Ballage, Kenyon Drake, Sterling Shepard, Mike Gesicki, Adam Shaheen, and Hassan Reddick
Okay.
to the Mustangs, who gave up Matt Breida, James Washington, George Kittle, and Tremaine Edmonds. Now, mind you, it worked out afterwards, before you say anything. DRC gave up Breida for a 2020 third rounder, fourth rounder, and fourth rounder. So now Breida basically turns into a third, a fourth, a fourth.
Okay. I find this one kind of even. It seems a bit lopsided, but we're talking about best player in the deal, and I feel like you got the best player in the deal.
In Kittle?
In Kittle. You know, and that's where I think that it kind of tips it back to even, because he gave up a lot of future in that deal. And this is something that you continually, in these dynasty leagues that we run year-round, with salaries, with contract terms and everything, the future is very important. Because when you're struggling to fill out a roster, things get slim pickings at times. But in this case, Kittle's young enough, and I just think he's talented enough where it kind of warranted giving up as much as he gave up.
Well, I look at it this way. He got the two top players in the deal by getting Tremon Edmonds also.
It's true.
So
that's huge.
He gets Edmonds and he gets Kittle. And then he has a prospect with Washington, and then he ends up getting a third, fourth, basically, because of Breida, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, you break this down. If you guys could see all the cap, then it would make it a little bit easier too. But, I mean, just player for player, I mean, Kenyon Drake, yeah, he's probably going to be the starter. They've already named it. But he's getting the backup also with Kalen Ballage.
Yeah, he gets Miami backfield.
Yep. Sterling Shepard, still a question mark. Like I said, I don't hate him, but there's other guys that I love. Mike Gesicki, who knows, right?
Yep.
That Miami team right now, and this is the problem, is who knows how Miami's going to be. Everybody thinks that they're tanking and that, you know, they're not going to be good. If that's the case, production's going to be down, and
It's true.
you know, it's not good to have guys from Miami. Adam Shaheen's just another guy right now with Trey Burton being
100%.
there. And then Hassan Reddick, he's never truly been the potential that he's had, and I don't think he'll ever outperform Edmonds.
Yeah. And then that's where it is. You have the Sterling Shepard. Let's say Sterling Shepard for Tremaine Edmonds. It depends on what your roster construction is. You could kind of see that. And then Miami backfield for Kittle. And I kind of see it that way. It really depends on what you like, because for me, Shaheen and Gesicki currently are just stashes. Like, you're just hoping for the best here. So when you get a starting, I don't want to label him stud, but almost stud linebacker and a tight end of that caliber, you've done really well in that deal.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, those are trades that have happened just this week.
Yeah.
So, we go to the Den. There's not as much excitement in the Den. I mean, the Melvin Gordon trade, the Aaron Jones trade, those were both pretty decent trades.
If you want me to, what I've done back-to-back years, because there was a Melvin Gordon trade that I made to start this whole Melvin Gordon cascade. The year before, I had Lev Bell, and in the offseason, I traded Lev Bell to get Melvin Gordon. I traded Lev Bell for Melvin Gordon and a first-round pick in the rookie draft. That pick ended up being Calvin Ridley. Then this offseason, I then traded Melvin Gordon. So I just keep on downgrading my back a bit. I traded Melvin Gordon, and I got Devontae Freeman for a little bit less cap, opened up a tiny bit of cap space, and another first. Well, the 201, and I believe like a fifth. So I keep downgrading a little bit, but I like the equity that I'm getting back in those trades as well.
Yeah, but that cap space that you opened up was enough for you to go and get Aaron Jones at the end of the day, right?
Exactly.
So you ended up with Aaron Jones, Devontae Freeman instead of Melvin Gordon.
Exactly.
It's tough, but I mean, if you only have one back guy, and you need two, this is the move that you have to make because their production's going to outweigh anybody that you're going to get at the auction draft because there's nobody there this year, right?
It's really slim, and I know it's a terrible way to think because you think every guy 16 games, but hedge my bets on 2 backs instead of 1. I like those odds because then it's 4 knees instead of 2.
Wow. 4 knees instead of 2. All right, man, we're going to wrap up a segment here, and this will probably be a separate segment also. We're going to talk about some things that me and Jesse love to talk about, and that's IDPs, independent defensive players. We have them in our redraft leagues. We have them in our dynasty leagues. I don't think I can live my life without IDPs. Let's kick her off, man. How do we want to talk about this?
Just for background reference, I know Jer, you played with him a long time. I personally have been in IDP leagues over a decade now. I also, a league without them is boring. More boring to me. Like, there's nothing wrong in being in leagues without them, but I just love what they add to the game so much. The way we've structured these leagues, JR here he's the mastermind behind a lot of them. He crunched a whole bunch of numbers to make you able to construct a roster in many different ways. You could have it IDP focused and let your offense lag a little bit, or you could go all offense and still get decent production out of your IDPs, but the way it's weighted, like your linebackers are your running backs, and your DBs are your wide receivers, and your D-line, kind of gravy there if you get a really good player.
Oh, they equal out the tight ends very, very easily, right?
Yeah, with your sacks, and so a sack is like a tight end touchdown.
Yep.
You know, like you're hoping for that sack, because a tight end not probably going to do too much for you, but he gets that touchdown. He's good for that week.
Yeah, he goes well over double digits, right?
So we love IDP. It brings so much to the game. I can't tell you how much fun it is getting to look at even more names than just the offensive players.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me, Jesse, in this is I played in leagues that had defenses, and you put up a ton of points. The guy's down by 20 points, and your defense shits the bed, and end result, you get a 0 to 5 points out of your defense. His defense goes off and recovers a couple of balls and scores a touchdown, blocks a field goal or whatever with special teams involved, and end result, they go off for like 24, 25 points and ends up beating you.
Yeah.
Just because of a defense.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is the same reason why we got rid of kickers, right? Because a kicker, they put up 2 extra points and a field goal, and you get 5 points out of it or 6 points out of it, depending on how long the field goal is. And then another kicker goes off and kicks 5 field goals, and you get like 20 points out of it because of the distances.
Or my favorite thing is you drafted the top kicker, and you're oh yeah, man, money in the bank. Well, your team scores nothing but touchdowns, so the guy ends up with 5 extra points on the game.
Yep. Enjoy your 5 points.
Yeah. Like, oh, that's awesome.
Well, Justin Tucker is kicking field goals like you would not believe.
Exactly. So it's the same thing. Like in your defense, like your defense could have a shutdown game. It holds the opposing team to, 14 points, 13 points. They just don't have the big splash plays, and you take 7 points home, whereas the other guy, the other team's just on the field the whole game. So, he gets a couple sacks here, maybe forces a fumble, this and that, and his crap kind of defense puts up 16, and you lose by 5 points.
Yep.
It just doesn't seem justifiable to have those positions that way, and IDP brings it so much more on a level playing field.
Yeah, I mean, you could have had Saquon Barkley last year. I could have had Darius Leonard. And in our scoring, Darius Leonard put up 358 points. And I believe Barkley put up almost identical. Barkley put up 387.8 points.
Yeah.
So almost identical. I mean,
And that's what we were looking for within these leagues is where you have parity between positions. And it just gives you more options, right? Like you have deeper rosters, but those roster spots account for the same amount of points if you're doing it right.
Yeah, so Darius Leonard with his 358 is comparable to Alvin Kamara with his 360.8.
Yeah. and that's fantastic, right? You know, that's when you don't just lose because you're up against Alvin Kamara.
Well, the biggest thing is like, if you truly believe the football systems and how things are said, and you want to play like the NFL, defense wins championships.
It's very true.
And now we have the ability with the system that I've kind of created with Luka. We have the ability to have defense wins championships. So you don't have to go out and spend at the auction draft a ton of money on, you know, these top name wide receivers and running backs when you can spend decent money, but not a ton of money. Like, I mean, a top running back, so Ezekiel Elliott, for example, he goes for $15 million all day long in our
so $50 million out of our $70 million cap.
Right, so
yeah.
almost a quarter of
yeah.
it. Meanwhile, somebody like, we'll use Bobby Wagner, because he consistently puts up points, stuff like that. Bobby Wagner goes for $3 million.
Yep.
And Bobby Wagner is going to put up, 280 points as a linebacker versus Zeke's, let's say, 380. Sure, it's 100 points off, but guess what? I paid $3 million compared to $15 million.
Yes.
Now, obviously, needs and dressing certain positions, but if you do your IDPs correctly, your offense is very, very easy to fill in those holes, and you can find guys, and it allows you to actually spend $10 million plus on at least 2 to 3 players on your team because of the way that you've set your IDPs.
And that's I actually split a team in our one league, the NRA, and the mantra of our team is defense. Dan and I. And when you look at that defense, we've got linebackers and DBs for days. We've got Luke Kuechly, Deion Jones. We have a decision to make on Alec Ogletree.
Ogletree's gone because you traded and you got Demario Davis from me.
Well, that's even
better.
better.
Don't even play that up.
There we go. So Demario Davis.
Because Ogletree, you'll have to pay $3.5 million or something like that.
Yes.
For. Yeah, on the RFA, you'd have to pay $3.5 to Ogletree.
And we're tight on the cap.
And he put up 214 points last year. Demario Davis put up 233 points. Now, mind you, Ogletree missed a couple of games. Demario Davis put up 232 points in our league, and he's $1.4 million.
Yes.
So he's almost a third of the price for almost the same production.
And then at DB we got Buda Baker, Keanu O'Neal, Rashad Jones, Denzel Ward I usually only like safeties. I'm not going to lie to you. But every once in a while, a corner can give you value.
Here's a name for you guys. Go out and get this guy at some point. He is going to be worth it. They have him hiding on their taxi squad, and he doesn't hide from me. Josie Jewell for Denver. Go out and get that guy.
We were talking the other day, and I said, how nice that he's just tucked away in there.
He's not tucked away. He's not tucked away. I see him.
But it was just the way we went, because we said we don't want to spend a lot of money on offense when we did this startup draft. So when you look at our roster, there is not much money spent on the offensive side of the ball. But we decided to go on to defense and take those $3 to $4 million contracts and build our points through our defense.
I mean, it kind of helps that you have James Conner at 0.4.
Oh, yeah.
Like, point 4, Tevin Coleman at $7 million, Kerryon Johnson at 5.7, some Galladay at 3.6, some D.D. Westbrook at 0.6, some Deshaun Jackson at $1 million, Golden Tate at 5.5, AJ Green at $9 million, Vance McDonald at 0.5. So yeah, you don't even have a $10 million guy on your offense or on your defense. So that's why you spent $2.4 million on Cam Jordan, $3.3 million on Joey Bosa, $2.2 on Gerard Davis, $3.4 on Kuechly, $3.1 on Deion Jones. I'm assuming $1.4 on Demario Davis. 0.4 on Denzel Ward, 1.6 on Budda Baker, $2 million on Rashad Jones, and 3.3 on Keon O'Neal.
And you guys, you haven't seen because I like to keep some secrets. So you haven't seen the Excel sheet that I created for Dan and I.
See, I thought this was going to be a spoiler alert.
And,
I thought you were going to actually show something to me.
This is something that I'd like to make available to people that listen at some point. What I did is I created an Excel format sheet where you can tinker before a startup draft when you do have, because these salary cap situations can be very confusing at times. And the way I set up my Excel sheet is I have it where I can go projected costs all the way down the board, and then on each position, the amount of guys you have or whatever, it gives you how much percentage of your cap that would be. And what Dan and I did is we tinkered with numbers for a month or two about what we felt comfortable with paying our top end guys, paying a position on the whole, paying offense versus defense. And we tinkered around with this to see where we felt the most value came from, points to money spent wise. And what we fell on was almost a zero RB approach, because when we took James Conner, Lev Bell was still up in the air. That could have been a disaster. We scrambled and overpaid Tevin Coleman because there was only one running back left before that. It was Joe Mixon.
Yeah, you wanted Joe Mixon.
And the guy wouldn't back down. And it was like $11 million at some point. And the biggest budget we had was $9 million. So in a way, sometimes saying that budget's restrictive, but it also gave us a way to see how we wanted to construct our team.
So let me ask you this. In that, it shows the point, like the production, you can put in the production that the guys get, and end result, it'll tell you, basically, do you have it set so that if I put in X player is worth $2 million, he put up 280 points, so each point is worth X?
This is kind of how it goes. My original was just salary cap. And then it's your own projection on points. Mm-hmm. Where I've gone to it for this year, and we will have another startup for the South Detroit, is with a value based on production versus. But the problem is that I'm finding with it is, are you going with projected value or what they did? And that's where I've had the biggest issue, because I don't know if I want to do it based on my projection or based on last year's stats.
Well, you would start with the stats numbers. Obviously, those numbers are the truest things that you have, right?
Yes. You
start with the stats numbers, and then any guys, you should be able to have another column where you can asterisk guys, and you asterisk into, their potential, and It'll give you an average based on what they put out and their potential based on their salary.
Yes, and so it just speaks to the point that you were talking about. When you look at, it's 100 points less, 280 to 380, Zeke to, a top linebacker. But when you look at the money you're getting per dollar, the point production you're getting per dollar, sometimes it works out very favorably,
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see that. We're going to end up getting our website up and going very, very shortly. So you will be able to take a look at Jesse's work. You'll be able to take a look at our rankings. We're working on a system right now where you can actually adopt our new Dynasty system, which I'm very excited about because it emulates the NFL very, very closely with salary caps and with contracts. So on a contract, this new league, Jesse, you're going to be able to build their contract. There'll be some certain parameters behind it, but you'll get to front load, back load, balance a contract, anything that you want. So with that, the progression that we're going is towards 100% towards the NFL running a league, being a GM of a team basically, and being able to facilitate things. Now, we have some specialty rules in there. We have some other things that make it more exciting than if we were just to take it and say, hey, look, we emulated the NFL, because there is some leagues like that, but some of those leagues are not as exciting or don't have the flair that we have to keep guys engaged 24/7. I mean, you know this, with our leagues, we play minimum 10 months out of the year. The only 2 months that we don't play is the NFL playoffs and Super Bowl. Yeah. And then after that, we kick off our off season in March right away. The NFL kicks off their free agency, so trades start happening galore. And then from there, we have our franchise tags in April. Then we followed it up with our offer sheets. So it's basically our free agency process. And then we follow it up into our auction draft, which allows, we always do our auction draft before our rookie draft because it allows you to fill in your holes, because we think that when you go to the rookie draft, you should be drafting based on needs, not based on, oh, look, this is the best thing here.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't need the best thing there, move back in the draft, get extra picks, and go get what you need.
Yeah, in this league, there will be links to show you our leagues and everything like that. But these are Jer and Luca have worked tirelessly at these for a couple years now, fine-tuning different aspects of these leagues, and I thank you, because the experience that we get out of this is year-round. It's worth the price of entry for whatever you want to set your league up for, and it's honestly just fun. And yeah, I just want to say thanks for that.
No problem, man. And that's another thing. Luca doesn't get enough credit for what he does in the background. I know that we're going to make a segment for him called Commissioner's Corner, because I know there's a lot of guys out there that either commission a league or want to commission a league because they have a lot of friends that want to play, and there's just no guy that'll take that over. So Luca's going to do a Commissioner's Corner segment for us, probably once every 2 weeks, and it's going to fill commissioners in on making their lives 10 times easier. Because after you get the system in place that we have, the system runs itself. You need basically what we consider a co-commissioner. So if we set up the league for you, Luca would still be the commissioner in case anything major happened, but the co-commissioner would just be there to approve trades, to make things happen. But anything major, we would take care of on our end, or the process would already take care of it itself.
Yes.
So what we have coming for you guys in the future is going to be absolutely amazing. It's going to be off the charts. I can't wait. So subscribe, do what you got to do, and that's it for me and Jesse today.
Take care, guys.
Bye.